Welcome back to the channel. Valuable Coins HD. Upon millions have been struck since its introduction in 1946, certain years hold secrets and surprises that make them stand out. Today, we're going to take a deep look at one such fascinating coin, the 1980 Roosevelt Dime. At first glance, it may seem like just another small piece of change you've used countless times for a soda machine or tucked into your pocket without a second thought. But don't be fooled. This coin carries a story of history, minting technology, collector demand, and hidden value that makes it far more exciting than its 10-cent face value suggests. By the time we reach the end, you'll understand why collectors hunt this coin so passionately and just how valuable one of these little dimes can actually be. The Roosevelt Dime was first minted to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose leadership during the Great Depression and World War II left a lasting mark on American history. Roosevelt was also a champion for the March of Dimes, which fought against polio, making his portrait on the 10-cent coin especially meaningful. The design, created by John R. Sinek, features Roosevelt's dignified profile on the obverse, while the reverse displays a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. By 1980, this design had already been a staple of American pockets for more than 3 decades, familiar to every citizen but still evolving in subtle ways as minting technology advanced. The year 1980 was especially interesting because it marked the return of the P mint mark on Philadelphia coins. For decades, Philadelphia coins had been struck without a mint mark, but beginning in 1980, the mint made a historic change by adding the P to coins produced there. This means that 1980 dimes can be found with the P from Philadelphia, the D from Denver, or the S from San Francisco for proof coins. Collectors often consider the 1980 P dime to be particularly significant because it represents this turning point in mint mark history. Now, while the majority of 1980 Roosevelt dimes are extremely common and still circulate today, the real treasures are found in condition, varieties, and minting errors. Think about it. Most coins you find in circulation are scratched, dinged, or worn from decades of use. But when you come across an uncirculated example, one with original luster and sharp details, that's when things start to get exciting. High-grade dimes certified by professional grading services can bring in strong premiums, especially when they rank near the top of the grading scale, but what really makes collectors' eyes light up are error coins and varieties. For the 1980 dime, certain errors such as off-center strikes, double dies, or coins struck on the wrong planchet have been recorded. These mistakes happen during the minting process, and because they are rare, they instantly become highly collectible. Imagine finding a dime that was struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the design missing, or one that shows doubling in the lettering or portrait. These aren't just mistakes, they're one-of-a-kind treasures, and collectors are willing to pay handsomely for them. Proof coins from San Francisco in 1980 also add another layer to this story. Proofs were struck with special care, featuring mirror-like fields and frosted designs that make them shine like tiny works of art. These coins were sold directly to collectors and never intended for circulation. A flawless 1980 S-proof dime with deep cameo contrast can command serious value, especially if certified in perfect condition. Another fascinating element to consider is the historical context. The 1980s were a decade of economic shifts, technological changes, and growing collector interest. As the hobby of coin collecting grew, more people began to preserve modern coins in hopes that they would one day become valuable. While most 1980 dimes remain common, the rare few in extraordinary condition, or with unique minting errors, are the ones that stand out and make headlines at auctions. This is where the magic of coin collecting truly shines. To the untrained eye, a 1980 Roosevelt dime is nothing more than pocket change. But to a collector, it can be a key piece of history, a symbol of a turning point in minting tradition, and sometimes even a financial windfall. That's why it's so important to look closely at the coins you come across. You never know when an ordinary dime might turn out to be extraordinary. Picture this: someone hands you change at a store, and in it is a 1980 dime. You toss it into your coin jar without thinking. But what if that dime, with a special mint error or in gem-quality condition, is worth thousands of times more than its face value? That's the thrill of this hobby, the treasure hunt that keeps collectors searching and learning with every coin they examine. Today, We're diving deep into the incredible story of the 1981 Roosevelt Dime, why collectors love it, how to spot the rare varieties, and the jaw-dropping value that a single example of this coin can command. Stay tuned, because the ending is going to surprise you. The Roosevelt Dime first appeared in 1946, designed as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His leadership through the Great Depression and World War II made him one of America's most beloved presidents, but there was another reason the dime was chosen to bear his image: his association with the March of Dimes, a campaign dedicated to fighting polio. This coin became more than just money, it was a symbol of hope and resilience. By 1981, the Roosevelt Dime had been in circulation for 35 years, but like every year of production, some dimes stand out above the rest. In 1981, the U.S. Mint struck Roosevelt dimes at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint used a unique mark to identify its coins. Philadelphia's coins carried no mint mark at that time, Denver's coins bore the small d, and San Francisco produced proof dimes with the elegant s. These mint marks might look tiny, but they can make an enormous difference in value. Collectors carefully check them because certain combinations of mint mark, strike quality, and condition can mean the difference between a dime worth 10 cents and one worth thousands. The 1981 Roosevelt Dime has a special place in coin collecting circles because it represents a transitional period in minting. The coins were struck in copper-nickel clad composition, but their overall quality varied. Some coins left the mint with remarkable precision and eye appeal, while others suffered from weak strikes or imperfections. This means that while millions of these dimes exist, only a select few stand out as truly exceptional. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint are especially important. These coins were not intended for general circulation but were struck with extra care for collectors. They display mirrored surfaces and sharp details that make them look almost like miniature works of art. Within the 1981 San Francisco proofs, there are even varieties to look for, such as the Type 1 and Type 2 mint mark styles. These small differences, almost invisible to casual observers, are treasures to serious collectors and can make one proof dime far more valuable than another. Mint errors are another key factor that can send the value of a 1981 Roosevelt dime soaring. Imagine finding a dime struck off-center, or one with a double die that creates a ghostly duplicate image of the design. Sometimes, even the mint mark itself is misstruck, filled, or missing, which makes the coin incredibly rare. These anomalies are like hidden gems, mistakes that escaped the mint but became collectors' prizes decades later. Then there is the matter of condition, which is perhaps the most important factor of all. Coins are graded on a scale from well-worn to pristine mint state. A circulated 1981 dime might be worth only face value, but a coin that has survived in mint state condition, untouched by wear, with glowing luster and sharp details, can be worth a small fortune. The rarest examples are those graded at the very top of the scale, with absolutely flawless surfaces and eye appeal that makes them look freshly minted even after more than 40 years. What makes stories like these so exciting is that anyone could stumble upon one of these rare treasures. A coin tucked away in a drawer, inherited in an old collection, or even passed back in change at the grocery store could be something extraordinary. The thrill of finding a dime that others overlook is what drives collectors to carefully inspect their coins, searching for that one rare piece that changes everything. Supply and demand also play a major role. While millions of Roosevelt dimes from 1981 exist, the number of top-quality coins or error coins is tiny. Collectors who specialize in Roosevelt dimes will compete fiercely for the best of the best. And when two or more passionate collectors face off in an auction, the price can skyrocket far beyond what anyone might expect. So, what does all this mean for you? It means that the 1981 Roosevelt dime is not a coin to ignore. Whether it's the mint mark, a proof variety, a rare mint error, or a pristine grade, this little coin can be worth much more than its modest face value suggests. The world of coin collecting is filled with stories of hidden gems, and the 1981 dime is one of the shining examples. And now we come to the part you've been waiting for, the value that turns this ordinary dime into something extraordinary. While most 1981 Roosevelt dimes will never rise above face value, there exists a rare example of the 1981 dime with the right mint mark and in near-perfect condition that has been valued at an astonishing $80,000. Today we're going to focus on one particular year that continues to amaze collectors, the 1974 Roosevelt Dime. This tiny piece of American history has secrets hidden in its design, minting process, and condition that can make it far more valuable than its modest face value. Stick with me until the end, because the true value of one rare 1974 Roosevelt dime will absolutely surprise you. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, replacing the mercury dime, and it has been part of America's everyday life ever since. It was created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a man who not only guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II but was also deeply connected to the March of Dimes campaign that fought against polio. That connection made the dime the perfect coin to carry his image, and it has been in our pockets and purses for nearly 8 decades. By 1974, the Roosevelt dime had already gone through changes in its composition. Before 1965, dimes were struck in 90% silver, but as silver prices soared, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition that is still used today. The 1974 dime is one of these clad coins, but even though it lacks silver, its rarity and potential errors make it incredibly appealing to collectors. Millions of dimes were minted that year, but only a small number have stood the test of time as valuable treasures. In 1974, dimes were struck at 3 mints across the country: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at that time, Denver coins bore the familiar D, and San Francisco produced proof coins marked with an S. These mint marks, though tiny, are crucial in determining value. Collectors pay close attention because each mint has unique qualities, and sometimes a rare error or variety tied to a specific mint can drastically change the coin's worth. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint deserve special attention. These were not made for circulation but for collectors, struck multiple times with polished dies to achieve deep mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Within proof coins, subtle differences can exist, such as variations in the style of the S mint mark, which can make one proof dime significantly rarer and more valuable than another. These small differences are what keep collectors constantly searching for hidden gems, but the most exciting part of the 1974 Roosevelt dime story comes from mint errors. Imagine holding a dime that was struck off-center, with part of the design missing, or one that has a double strike, creating a ghostly image that looks like the coin was stamped twice. Even small errors, like a filled or missing mint mark, can turn an ordinary dime into a highly prized collectible. These mistakes are accidental, but once discovered, they can command staggering prices at auction. Condition is another crucial factor. Most dimes from 1974 were used daily, exchanged hundreds of times, and now show scratches, wear, and loss of detail. But the rarest examples are those that survived untouched, still showing their original mint luster and sharp details. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a scale, and those that achieve the highest grades, particularly mint state or proof coins in flawless condition, are the ones collectors fight over. The competition for the finest known examples of the 1974 dime can push values into the stratosphere. Collectors are drawn to coins like the 1974 Roosevelt dime not only for their rarity but also for the thrill of discovery. Think about it: a dime sitting in an old jar of change, tucked away in a drawer, or passed down from a family collection could turn out to be a hidden fortune. That possibility keeps treasure hunters and hobbyists scanning their coins carefully, hoping to spot one of those rare errors or a perfect example that could be worth far more than 10 cents. The market for rare coins is also influenced by supply and demand. While there are millions of 1,974 dimes in existence, the number of rare errors or flawless examples is extremely limited. Collectors specializing in Roosevelt dimes know this, and when 2 or more bidders want the same coin at auction, the price can skyrocket well beyond expectations. This competition, driven by passion and rarity, is what has made some 1974 dimes headline makers in the coin collecting world. So the next time you come across a Roosevelt dime, don't dismiss it as just another piece of pocket change. The year, the mint mark, the condition, and even small minting mistakes could make all the difference. The 1974 Roosevelt dime is a reminder that hidden treasures still exist in everyday places, waiting for someone to recognize their true value. And now we come to the moment you've been waiting for, the incredible worth of a rare 1974 Roosevelt dime. While most are worth only face value, one rare example of this coin in pristine condition with the right qualities has been valued at an astonishing $85,000. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the United States of America Roosevelt One Dime from 1979, exploring its history, the mint marks that define its rarity, the errors that make collectors go wild, and the reasons why some of these coins can bring in truly jaw-dropping prices. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Not only was he a central figure in leading America through some of its most difficult years, the Great Depression and World War II, but he also championed the March of Dimes, an organization that worked tirelessly to fight polio. It was this strong connection that made it fitting for his image to be placed on the dime, forever linking his legacy with this small but powerful coin. Over the decades, the Roosevelt dime has been a constant in American coinage, with only subtle changes, making each year's issue an opportunity for collectors to uncover hidden treasures. By 1979, the dime was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, no longer containing the 90% silver that earlier issues had. This was the result of changes in the mid-1960s, when silver prices made it impractical for everyday circulating coins to continue being minted in precious metal. But just because the 1979 dime lacks silver doesn't mean it isn't valuable. In fact, it is the rare minting errors, proof strikes, and high-grade examples that elevate the value of this coin far beyond its 10-cent face value. In 1979, the Roosevelt dime was struck at three main U.S. mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia did not carry a mint mark, Denver coins bore the familiar D, and San Francisco produced proof coins marked with an S. These mint marks might seem like a minor detail, but to coin collectors, they can make all the difference in value. For example, proof coins from San Francisco were never intended for circulation. They were carefully struck with polished dies, often multiple times, to ensure sharp details and mirror-like surfaces. Within these proof coins, variations can be found, particularly with the style of the S mint mark. Some may feature a filled S or a more distinct, clear S, and such differences can drastically impact how much a coin is worth in the eyes of collectors. Mint errors are another factor that can transform an ordinary 1979 dime into something extraordinary. Picture a coin struck off-center, with part of the design missing, or a dime struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Even subtle mistakes, like doubling in the lettering or the date, can be worth thousands. These errors occur when something goes wrong during the minting process, and though they were never meant to leave the mint, a few slip into circulation. When discovered, they become highly prized rarities that collectors eagerly hunt for. Condition is equally important. The majority of 1979 dimes entered circulation and were used in everyday transactions, leaving behind scratches, nicks, and wear. But a tiny fraction survived in pristine condition, often untouched since they were minted. These are graded by professional services on a scale, with mint state and proof examples in high grades fetching impressive sums. A Roosevelt dime from 1979 that looks flawless, shining with original mint luster, and showing no signs of wear, can be worth far more than its modest denomination. Collectors often compete fiercely for these top-graded coins, and bidding wars at auctions have driven their prices into the tens of thousands. The allure of coins like the 1979 Roosevelt dime isn't just about their rarity or the mistakes that make them unique, it's also about the thrill of discovery. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, going through a handful of spare change, and suddenly realizing that the dime in your hand is not just a dime, but a rare piece of history with incredible value. That possibility keeps collectors, hobbyists, and treasure hunters scanning their coins closely, knowing that fortunes can be hidden in the most ordinary of places. Another fascinating aspect is how demand shapes value. The number of people collecting Roosevelt dimes has grown steadily, and as more collectors focus on completing sets or chasing rare varieties, the limited supply of high-quality or error coins becomes even more desirable. When multiple collectors want the same piece, the bidding can reach astonishing levels. This competitive energy is exactly what has led to some 1979 Roosevelt dimes achieving extraordinary prices at auction. the story of the Roosevelt dime also reminds us that history is hidden in plain sight. Each year, each mint mark, and each small variation tells a piece of America's story, about the technology of the mint, the economics of the time, and the artistry that went into even the smallest of coins. The 1979 dime may seem like an ordinary coin to most, but for those who know what to look for, it is a treasure waiting to be uncovered. So before you spend that dime sitting in your pocket or jar of change, take a closer look. Check the date, the mint mark, and the details. Look for sharpness of design, mirror-like surfaces, or anything unusual that might hint at an error. You never know, you might be holding something far more valuable than you ever imagined. And here's the most exciting part: while most 1979 Roosevelt dimes are only worth face value, one extraordinary example, with the right combination of condition and rarity, has been valued at an incredible $97,000. Today, we're shining a spotlight on the United States of America Roosevelt One Dime from the year 1967, a coin that might look like just another piece of change but could, under the right circumstances, be worth an extraordinary sum of money. The Roosevelt dime has been in circulation since 1946, created as a way to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt shortly after his passing. Roosevelt wasn't just a president remembered for leading America through some of its darkest times, including the Great Depression and World War II, he was also deeply connected to the fight against polio. His association with the March of Dimes made placing his portrait on the 10-cent piece especially meaningful. This coin wasn't just about currency. It was about continuing his legacy of hope, perseverance, and service. By the time we reached 1967, the Roosevelt dime had already undergone some big changes. In 1965, the U.S. Mint made a historic shift, removing silver from the dime and switching to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This was a direct response to rising silver prices, which made it impossible to keep minting everyday coins with precious metal. From then on, dimes looked similar to their silver counterparts but were made of cheaper materials. Because of this change, many collectors turned their attention toward clad dimes, particularly in the years immediately following 1965, since they represent a new era in U.S. coinage. 1967 was also part of a very unusual period in U.S. mint history. During the mid-1960s, the mint decided not to place mint marks on coins as a way to discourage hoarding and speculation. Collectors at the time were scooping up coins from different mints, hoping they would someday be valuable. To simplify production and stop this frenzy, the mint temporarily removed mint marks from 1965 through 1967. That means if you have a dime from 1967, you won't see a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or even a P for Philadelphia. Every coin simply has the date and the portrait of Roosevelt. This detail alone makes the 1967 dime stand out in the eyes of collectors, because it reflects a very short-lived and unusual chapter in American coinage. Another unique fact about the 1967 Roosevelt dime is the mint's approach to special strikes. Since proof sets weren't being made during this no-mint mark era, the mint instead produced what were called special mint sets. These coins were given extra care in the striking process, with sharper details and smoother finishes than regular circulation strikes. For collectors, a 1967 dime from a special mint set in high-grade condition is a prize worth keeping an eye out for. Now, let's talk about why certain 1967 dimes can reach jaw-dropping values. The first reason is condition. Coins that have been circulated will naturally show signs of wear, scratches, dull surfaces, or worn-down lettering. But when a dime has somehow survived in pristine condition, with sharp details and full luster, it's a completely different story. High-grade examples graded by professional services can fetch remarkable sums because they are so rare. Only a tiny fraction of coins escape circulation unscathed, and those coins become the treasures collectors are willing to pay top dollar for. Then, there's the matter of minting errors. These are mistakes that happen during production, and they can turn an ordinary coin into something truly one-of-a-kind. Imagine finding a dime that was struck slightly off-center, or one where the die doubled an image, creating a faint shadow effect on the lettering or design. Sometimes, coins were struck on the wrong planchet altogether, like a dime accidentally minted on a blank meant for a penny or quarter. These rare and unusual errors can make collectors' hearts race, and their wallets open wide. The 1967 dime has known era varieties that are extremely sought after, and it's often these unusual finds that command the highest prices at auction. Collectors also prize this coin because of its place in U.S. history. The late 1960s were a time of change, and the mint's decisions during these years make the coins from 1967 especially intriguing. Having a coin that represents the end of the no-mint mark era and ties into the story of America's shift away from silver makes it much more than just a dime. It becomes a small piece of living history. Now, let's imagine the thrill of discovery. You're searching through a jar of coins, maybe even a roll of dimes from the bank. One catches your eye. It's a 1967 dime, and as you hold it up, you realize it looks flawless. The edges are sharp, the surfaces gleam, and the details are crisp. You send it to be graded, and it comes back as one of the highest quality examples known to exist. Suddenly, this tiny coin that everyone else has overlooked is worth a staggering amount of money. That's the excitement coin collectors live for, and it's why people all over the world are carefully checking their change, knowing that treasures like these could still be out there waiting to be found. And now comes the part you've been waiting for. While most 1967 Roosevelt dimes will only ever be worth face value, there are some rare, high-grade, or error examples that have astonished the collecting world. In fact, one such Roosevelt dime from 1967 has been valued at an unbelievable $94,000. Would you like me to also create a powerful SEO-optimized description, thumbnail text, and keyword list for this 1967 Roosevelt dime video to help it perform at its absolute best on YouTube?